Hey everyone, and for those of you who were live for that first attempt, sorry about the technical issue.
We're back.
We're back. Oh my gosh, it was so silly. My thing was muted, and then I couldn't hear you because I didn't put these in. It was so silly. How are you?
So many things to keep track of.
I know.
Doing well. How are you?
Very, very good. Very good. Thank you.
Doing good. Everybody's good here.
All right. So we have, like we did last week, I put in two emails that we should dive into and go over in more detail than I usually do, and then we should talk a little bit about if we have time later on, talk about what we texted about a little bit, that maybe create a sleep summit at some point. Right?
It's an idea.
All right, yeah. Let's check this out. So let's do this.
Let's
for sure. Let us share the screen and we will jump in. And by the way, to Cora, I'm sorry, I was meaning to answer this earlier, but I didn't realize yesterday was we were going to celebrate my son's birthday yesterday, so it didn't happen yesterday. So anyway, sorry for the delay, Cora. But let's get this. So this email came in a few days ago, and the title is "Extreme Paradoxical Insomnia Since April." So let's read this. I'm a young female residing in the East Coast of the US. I'm writing today because I've been experiencing the absolute worst bout of insomnia I have ever had in my entire life, and it has had unrelenting effects on my physical and mental well-being. The fear it has instilled in me has absolutely ravaged any chance of getting deep, restful sleep, and I'm honestly convinced it will kill me. What happens every night is I close my eyes for hours and hours, and then sometime during the night or morning, depending on when this actually happens, I black out. Whenever I black out, I have intense, vivid dreams that seem to only go on for a few hours. Then when I come back to reality, it feels like I've never even slept in the first place. This has been going on consistently since the beginning of April to now. This all initially started after an episode of sleep paralysis in early April. After that, I developed a crippling fear of going to sleep, somnophobia. The fear was so bad, I wouldn't sleep for days at a time. And when I did, it was the same blackout, vivid dreams, BS. When I eventually broke down in front of my parents, they decided to contact a psychiatrist. I was then put on a slew of medications, trazodone, lorazepam, hydroxyzine, Celexa, that all gave me mediocre sleep at best. Recently, I've switched to just taking mirtazapine and melatonin before going to bed while taking lorazepam during the day for panic attacks. But I still have this poor quality, REM-dominated sleep that leaves me feeling like I'm absolutely going insane. I need help. Is there any way to overcome this? Should I stop medication? What do you think? Wow, yeah, one of those emails where you can really feel what an impact the trouble sleeping has. So yeah, I'll let you go first there, Mike. What are your thoughts when you hear this?
Yeah, a lot going on. Something that caught my attention early on in that message was where she described lying there with her eyes closed for hours and hours. The simple response to that is you should never do that. You should never lie there with your eyes closed for hours and hours because you are trying to sleep when you do that. You are trying to will yourself to sleep. And that tends to be at the core of most chronic insomnia, is the willful intention to try to initiate sleep. So lying down with your eyes closed for hours and hours, it's not a helpful thing to do. So as we've talked about before in other discussions, obviously stimulus control kicks in there and you want to remove yourself from the sleeping environment, do something you enjoy for a while until sleepiness gets strong. Because it can't be forced. The big message with sleep is you can't force it. Then she also was talking about, the vivid dreams. To me, that kind of sounds like someone who is sleep deprived. And when someone is sleep deprived, for any reason, their brain tends to jump into REM a little more quickly. That REM rebound, we call it in the sleep field. That might be a little bit of what she's experiencing, which it's not an abnormal thing. It's not a disorder. It's something the brain normally does when it's kind of sleep deprived. It jumps into REM a little sooner, a little quicker. So it might feel like you're going right into REM. Even though it might be like, 20, 30 minutes or something like that. There's no way to know without an EEG, without wires on your head. So, try to, stay calm about that because that's just kind of a normal thing. With sleep consolidation over time, usually the vividness of dreams kind of settles down, anxiety goes down, everything kind of stabilizes. And then lastly, about the medications, I can't speak to what you should or shouldn't take. I've heard of all of those medications, of course. Medications can have side effects and they can interact and all that. So you got to stay real close contact with the doctor who prescribed them. So those are kind of three things that just right away kind of came to mind.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say here is like the big picture thing. Like, look, hearing all of this, I want to say to Cora and everybody else that has described something like this is there's nothing new here, nothing strange and unusual about this. This is things that I've heard many times. And if you Cora, if you go through many of the these talking insomnia episodes where I talk to people, or you'll find that there are many that describe exactly what you do. And I want to go through a couple of things as well that I caught my attention, which was first one, this all initially started. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing the screen. I have to get used to it. Here, let me share this again. Here we go. This all initially started after an episode of sleep paralysis early in May, right here. So this is like the classic in that, we often tell, you may have not heard this, Cora, but we often talk about this 3P model where there's like, some of us are more predisposed to insomnia. We have certain traits, but that's really not a problem. Then you have a precipitating event, something that triggers it. And a lot of people like yourself can pinpoint like it was that thing that started it. And what happens in that moment when, the moment where everything starts is that your brain kind of like identifies insomnia as a threat, a problem, and then takes you into this direction of like trying to figure out why you have it and try to do something to stop it. And all that attention to it is actually what keeps it going, So I would just want to point out that precipitating event is nothing unusual. It's very, very common. And of course, when you're having very little sleep, you get this fear. In fact, you're describing exactly that, the fear of going to sleep or the fear of not sleeping. All that stuff is very common. And, I also want to, I think I'm on saying, kind of like tagging on to what Coach Michael said here, that when I heard that too, I closed my eyes for hours and hours. That to me is actually something that kind of makes me encouraged and excited, because that's kind of like, quote unquote, like low hanging fruit, meaning like that means you are spending a lot of hours in bed trying to sleep, which means it's a pretty pretty uncomplicated, straightforward step of like spending less time in bed, and you will see that things start getting a lot better. I heard you maybe wanted to jump in there, Michael. What is something you want to comment on?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I should just say, after you finished that email, I was pretty optimistic for this person. I felt optimistic. Like, there's a lot of things here that you can do, a lot of like low-hanging fruit, as you said, really classic CBT kinds of things that can be implemented, which you should take as a very encouraging thing. Like Coach Daniel said, your insomnia is not particularly unique. Like, you're one of those, as well, all my clients, they're in the category of, they are a unique person. Their insomnia is not particularly unique. It's rare to come across unique chronic insomnia. So that's a good thing. And so, yes, absolutely. It's that's a behavior you can change. In bed for hours and hours trying to sleep, that's not a thought to change. That's just a behavior to change. And it's easier to kind of change behaviors than to change thoughts, to be honest. And so I think that's a good place to start, frankly, in my opinion, with this. But I'm optimistic. I think there's a lot of things to work on there.
Agree. And another, it's April now. We're in the end of May. It's for someone who has trouble sleeping. Like, although it sounds like Cora had maybe intermittent trouble sleeping for a long time, but now this bout has really been for the past couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. You're in a better spot than somebody who's had like really bad insomnia for decades, definitely. Another one I want to talk about here is like the title of this email was like extreme paradoxical insomnia. And curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Michael, but I think it is to some degree helpful to talk about paradoxical insomnia, because it again maybe demystifies it, or you can see that, okay, other people have the same thing as I do. But the important thing about this thing called paradoxical insomnia is this, that it's actually it's not really anything different than just like any insomnia. It's just the experience of, you know, somebody who has that experience, you know, of sleeping like almost nothing and experiencing that you don't sleep at all. That's what we call paradoxical insomnia. But guess what? Everybody with insomnia has some paradoxical insomnia. You know, everybody with insomnia overestimates how little they sleep, or how, I put that very weirdly. Everybody with insomnia, to some degree, sleep a little bit more than they think. When that component of insomnia becomes like the dominant one, that's what we call paradoxical insomnia. So it's nothing strange and unusual to have paradoxical insomnia. It's not like a different type that needs a different type of treatment or anything like that. Oh yeah, I also want to comment on the vivid dreams, which was, you know, to me, that's really a sign of like hyperarousal, when you're like, you are fearful, you're alert, you're on the lookout, your body's like in this fight or flight mode, and you don't even perceive sleeping, and everything becomes enhanced, like your feelings, your physical feelings and your dreams, everything just becomes so much stronger. And that's why you have so much vivid dreams when you're in this like hyper aroused state. So I think all of that, I hope, helps kind of demystify what's going on for it. Cool. So I think,
one last thing on
absolutely.
Email. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I sense there's a lot of clock watching going on. So I sense there's clock watching. Another behavior you can change that's simple: don't check the time. It helps.
Straightforward one, super helpful one. And I want to say, finally here, the last part of this email was, is there any way for me to overcome this? Should I stop medication? What do you think? I want to say first, is there any way for me to overcome this? This sounds like splitting hairs here, but I think it's better to think of like, whenever somebody says like, can I battle this? Can I fight it? Can I crush it? Can I overcome it? I'm like, the point is to actually step away from the battle, if you will, and to say like, is there any way for me to get past this or sleeping better? Absolutely. There's hope for every single person. Every single person I've ever interacted with that has just like kept learning, kept coming back, kept asking questions, have done well. There's hope for every single one. Should I stop medicating? Okay, that's a trickier one. Like, I think, again, you have to talk to your doctor about medications. My general thoughts about medications is that when you are in a period where you're sleeping, you have this very active insomnia, I think less intervention is better. So I would say a good place to start is just like, take the medication you've been taking for a while, but take them like a robot, the same time every night. Don't let it be like, if I don't sleep, I take it. If I sleep better, I take it, like that. That creates a lot of confusion. In the beginning, you actually do need to be fairly, have a pretty strict like a plan, or a pretty rigid plan. And I think that should be like, get up the same time every morning, take your medications like a robot, don't go to bed too early, spend maybe 7 hours or something like that in bed, learn as much as you can, and you'll do really, really well. Cora, if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. Cool. And so with that said, let's move over here to another email. This is from Luke, and Luke had, for a little background here, he sent an initial question where he said that he was actually doing better, but he had some questions about, can't remember exactly what it was, but this is a follow-up question from Luke, and the title of his email was hello. And he says this, let me read it. I think it is key time for me to have a sleep detox. And for anyone out there who has never heard that term, it is when you kind of completely zone out from reading about sleep for a while. And that can often help, as we know, like attention is what drives insomnia. Now, I feel that I know most of what I need to know, meaning I think he understands what insomnia is all about, etc. I know that all my sleep issues are thought issues. I can see very well that my body can sleep super well when I'm not getting in the way, but it is easier said than done. Do you have any advice on really letting go for a bit? I feel that I've recently been watching videos like yours or Martin Reed's for comfort rather than knowledge, and it's a big help, don't get me wrong, but I know I do have eventually to let myself go from it for a bit to stop feeding my insomnia. So that's kind of the first question, how to let go. Second is that since I know it is the fears and thoughts that keep fueling this, I keep finding that I'll fear sleeplessness until I'm sleeping better. Then suddenly it's a scary thing again to me. How can I keep this fearlessness even when my sleep is getting better and I'm becoming more comfortable with sleep? Should I maybe try to do some more thought work, that is doing thought ladders? Or do you think maybe I should continue to ignore these thoughts because I don't want to feed them with the attention they don't deserve? I just feel that I've got the gas, I've got the knowledge, I think, and now it's time to lose the remaining brake, the hyperarousal, time to pull in the strings completely. And then I wanted to just say, like, there was a quick add-on here. I just want to add a quick additional question. I was thinking about maybe should I do thought work while simultaneously not giving someone too much attention. I was thinking maybe taking a brief 10 to 15 minutes a day, just doing some thought work, discredit some problems, etc. Pretend like I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So I think maybe I was thinking, okay, let's summarize this. So first question is, like, Luke has decided that, like, he wants to kind of let go, but it's easier said than done. How can you take that final step of, like, being like, okay, I'm really not gonna read about this, listen to any videos, I'm really gonna take that step, do the detox, but it has a hard time letting go. Like, thoughts on that, Mike? What could Luke be thinking about?
Well, it's, he sounds like he is predisposed to insomnia. It's like it's something, it's kind of a challenge for him. We all have our challenges in all walks of life. Everything we do, we all have different challenge level. Some things are easier than others to different people. So he might be a bit predisposed. So, okay, that's fine. Doesn't mean you can't, you can't improve, you can't move forward. It just means that it's going to maybe take a little bit of, more learning and working on it a little bit. The idea of, like, how to let go, in my mind, it's like you got to then get involved in something else. Like, you're always going to think about something. He sounds like kind of a deep thinker, and so you got to go in, you got to think about something else, like get a new hobby, read a different book, get involved in something else that occupies more of your thinking time. You can't just, like, say, okay, I'm going to stop thinking about X. No, now I'm thinking about it again, right? It's like, that's kind of how it works. You have to say, I'm going to stop thinking about X. Oh, look, I'm going to think about Y. And it involves reading this book and doing this thing and going to this place and doing all these other things that will take your mind away from X. So that's kind of my take on, like, how to let go. You have to maybe guide your mind somewhere else if you're just doing some imagery or something. But maybe more tangibly, it's get involved in a new hobby, get a new interest, start reading about something else you like. Maybe it's science or something else. I don't know, whatever it is. Everyone's different. Get involved, like tangibly get involved in something else.
Yes, great, love it. So for Luke here, to summarize this, is like, it's hard to kind of decide not to think about something, not to do anything, but kind of shift direction in different ways. So to let that other thing take such a big space that you're not even that question of, like, the question of how to let go kind of just disappears because you're doing other things. That's the one. I thought about one specific little kind of trick or thought thing here. And by the way, Mr. Peace, we'll get to your question in a second. Love live questions. Which was this one. I think my wife told me about this one, and this was kind of for weight loss. And, like, when you want to eat this thing and it looks really delicious, but then you kind of tell yourself, okay, but I know that when I've done that, I'm actually gonna feel worse, and I deserve to feel good. And, like, just tell you that can give you that, yeah, I deserve to feel good. Like, I'm not gonna do that. So, like, if you Luke here are like, you're kind of like feeling a little anxious, you're like, I would like to watch one of Martin Reed's videos to feel better. But then you think, but you know what, in the long run, I don't think that's good for me. And I deserve to feel good. I deserve to sleep well. That could help you kind of resist that urge. So with that said, let's jump in and take this live question here. I love this because it kind of, like, you'll see why. It says, Mr. P says, in one of your previous videos, you both disagree on using blue light, especially for stimulus control. Your thoughts, meaning, if you're there, Mr. Peace, okay. I'm not sure if you mean that me and Mike disagree, or we both feel it's not a problem. But I'll let you go first, Mike, and talk to generally thoughts on blue light.
Yep. I have a feeling I know what he's talking about, and it's kind of a subtle thing. So blue light is a high frequency light in the color spectrum that what we can see as humans. And it's a little bit, higher frequency light's a little harsher on your eyes. It's not as comforting, compared to the slow wave frequencies like the orange and yellow and stuff. We call those warm glows, that's like glow instead of like stark, it's kind of like a little difference there. So my feeling, I think he's talking about like blue light at night, it's like the horrible thing. It suppresses your melatonin. No. What I'm talking about is just comfort. Like when I read at night, I don't want to read with like an LED or a fluorescent light. I want to read with like an incandescent light. It's easier on my eyes. That's the biggest thing in my mind for why I think incandescent light around bedtime, during the night, if you're up reading or something, it's just so much more comfortable. And I like it personally. And I think it's, you don't want to be uncomfortable. You want to be comfortable. So that's kind of where I come in on the blue light thing. Like you read the studies and stuff about melatonin suppression, all that. And it's like, you got to have a lot of that light. Like it's got to be pretty concentrated and like, lined up with your, melanopsin receptors and all this kind of stuff. So it's the comfort thing. That's all it is. And some people, some people, they have more sensitive eyes than others. My eyes are a little bit sensitive. It's kind of me. And so I like to share that I think incandescent light is a little more comfortable. And it's, again, basically and you can try it, and if you like it, then hey, more comfort, you might be more likely to read if it's more comfortable for you. So that's my take.
I think you're right, Mike. I think probably this is what Mr. Peace picked up on. And I think, as you know, Mike, and Mr. Peace knows also, my general take is that I'm all about like, forget about all that stuff. Forget about the light, the protein, how much you eat and all that stuff. Because, the less attention, the less things you think about it, the better. But then I want to add to that. Like we had last time we were live, or maybe I was live, I don't know. There was somebody who asked about like, how about those, it was kind of half jokingly, but asked about those scented pillow covers. And then I was like, as I got that question, I was like, guess what? If you like, that makes you happy and excited. If having a scented pillow cover makes you feel like, the bed is such a nice place, why not? I don't see a problem at all. The same thing if you think like having like this incandescent light bulb makes you feel like, oh, it's cozy, it's nice. Go for it. But, and then just to hammer this one in, on the flip side, if you're like, oh my gosh, it's the blue light that's causing my insomnia, I gotta get those blue.
Yes.
No, that's not the way to go.
Exactly. Right? It's exactly right. Yep.
Cool. And here we go.
I hope that answered your question.
I think thanks. In the previous video with the sleep coach, and you've also clarified, the sleep coach man said that watching TV and playing video games is okay. However, both of you disagree with him. The sleep coach man said it was was Steven playing video games.
Talking about Martin.
Is that Martin? Maybe.
I think so. The
I
three
don't
of us
know.
were together. I don't know. Who knows?
Here's my. I'll jump on this one. I love this, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that here's what I think. It's basically what we said. If watching TV and playing video games, if you actually enjoy that, if that makes you feel good and relaxed and happy, go for it. However, if you get really, really like into this like violent video game and you know that you're not going to be able to like settle down for hours after that, then don't do it before you go to bed. Common sense.
Yeah, and some of these video games can be pretty realistic, I've seen the younger generation, you see them doing, and it's like, wow, that's pretty intense. And, intensity can generate like adrenaline. That's hard. That's going to disrupt your sleep. So, it's kind of like the night should be kind of calm and enjoyable, not probably super intense, bright lights, lots of noise. That's like common sense. That's like getting into like the sleep hygiene common sense, right? It's like, well, what do you think is going to happen? So a little bit, that's fine. I don't think anyone would suggest doing it in the middle of the night with like an 80-inch plasma TV and a bunch of loud noise.
And by the way, I want to say, he said, yes, Martin, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
And I think we have actually, I think in our very first roundtable, if anybody wants to check that out, it's called, CBC, the deep dive, whatever. Anyway, I think he says there actually that if you use a computer and that's calming to you, I think we're pretty close, even with Martin there. And so I think so, yeah, definitely. But yeah, Mr. Peace, thanks so much for these questions. And let us return to kind of the second part of Luke's question here, which was okay, this is an interesting one. So what's happening with Luke is that when he's not sleeping that well, he's actually not as fearful as when he's starting to get better. It's kind of like when he's starting to get better, that's, I think, when he actually starts getting more anxious, because in a way it's kind of like he has more to lose, you know? And then he has kind of like a set, like then he doesn't sleep well, and then kind of rebuilds it that act. So I think, how can I keep this fearlessness even when my sleep is getting better and I'm becoming more comfortable with sleep? I think, to be honest with you, like when I read this comment, it's like it's tempting for someone like myself to go into like really like going to the deep psychology of it and thinking about this and this and that. But I think my answer to this one is more like set it and forget it, meaning like it will come to you with time. Like the more kind of these cycles you have, I think the more you're starting to do better, and then you have kind of like a step back, but then you do better again, and then you have step back. Then you'll see that sleep always comes back. I always get back to sleeping well. And I think just by keeping going, you will lose the fear of having the setback, which comes when you're sleeping better. But like it becomes kind of confusing there. But I think my thinking is just like, just keep going, and you will start losing the fear of sleep, losing sleep, you know, losing that sleep anxiety, I think. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, and I get the sense that he's tracking his sleep, you know, through a Fitbit thing or a log or something like that. I would discourage him from doing that. You know, that's good for some people. I don't think Luke's the person who should be doing that. So in case he is, if you're listening and watching, I wouldn't recommend that. It just puts more focus on your sleep, you know, and then you have like the performance anxiety. You see the good night, the good night, the good night, the good night, and you're just in your mind, it's like building. It's like, here it comes. I know it's around the corner, and it's just generating like this expectation that everything's just going to crash. Well, if you just don't track it at all, you know, like Coach Daniel was just saying, your sleep is homeostatic. It's going to like balance itself out, and there's little night to night fluctuations and all that. If you just don't track it, don't focus on it, don't
make
think
it
about it.
Yeah, you know, make it a part of the sleep detox that you're doing anyway. And you know, just actually this all kind of starts to come together into this one idea now. Like, do the sleep detox, shift your attention, like Coach Michael said, to something else, like a new hobby or something you enjoy. And then when your focus shifts from your night to your day, then you're not thinking so much about how much to sleep and how much sleep, etc. And I think that will just even things out, and you'll do much better.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And let's I think there was, let's see, this might have been kind of the same question again. Oh yeah, no, this was this one. So should Luke set aside like 10 to 15 minutes a day to just do some thought work, like work on like problem thoughts and challenge them, etc.? I think, to be honest with you, generally speaking, I think I love thought work, and I think it's good for someone that has a lot of maybe anxiety, racing thoughts, etc. My thinking when I read this is like, no, go do a complete sleep detox. Like, commit to that sleep detox and see how things go.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally agree. You know, yeah, you don't want to be processing your sleep thoughts during the day in any kind of structured way. It's just it's going to take you in the wrong direction. Now, spending a couple minutes thinking about something that is just a general issue or problem that you want to work on in your daily life, like I want to work on my, you know, garden or something, you know, okay, take a couple minutes, write down a couple things you want to do, and then go do them. You know, get like process like things like that during the day. That's totally fine. Or maybe it's like a relationship issue. You know, you need to talk to someone about something. You know, make a note to do that and all that. But that's like completely that's not sleep related at all. So as far as like thought work on sleep, no.
So I think we summarized there, Luke. You know, I think do the sleep talk, and you know, when you come back, like when you're you know, in a couple of weeks or something like that, let us know how you do. It would be super helpful. And here we have a comment from Lewis Winter. Thanks so much, Lewis. my sleep has been getting better the more distractions I have in the day since I've been getting into routine. That just sums it up, like.
Yep.
The only thing with this I want to add for anybody that's tuning in is that I think in my almost like previous life, I was about to say, like in my earlier days, like a couple of months ago, I would have really gone into the direction of like, no, forget about sleep. Just do things you enjoy, which you can do. Like when you have gotten to a stage where Luke is, when you understand why you have trouble sleeping, when you understand insomnia, then you can shift attention. If somebody hears this and it's like first time on this channel and you're like, oh, I just got to do other stuff, but you haven't really understood why you've had trouble sleeping,
right?
You can't do that shift yet, right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Easy. Cool. So that was that, and we have another live question here from Mr. Peace. So no sleep diary. I love this question. It's a great one, and I've learned a lot from you on this topic, Mike. But what do you think? Your thoughts on sleep diaries, Mike?
For the right person, great. For the wrong person, really bad. So I think, Mr. Peace, I don't think a sleep log is going to help you, and could be a little, make things a little more difficult. It's like there's, like a sleep log is something you can do for a couple weeks and see if it helps you, and then if it doesn't, you can not do it for a couple of weeks. Like you can kind of experiment a little bit like that. I think that's actually helpful to see what works best for you. Based on what you've described, I wouldn't suggest that you do. I wouldn't suggest you use a Fitbit. I wouldn't suggest you do a sleep log. You know a lot about sleep. You're pretty well versed. I think you need to focus on other things.
This is really cool. So
get the sleep log going.
To pick your brain here, Mike, it's like you see that Mr. Peace has asked us about like blue lights. He's asked about stimulus control. He's watched a lot of Martin Reed. So your thinking is he already knows a lot, so he probably doesn't need a sleep log. Is that how you're thinking?
Yeah, and I think it's just gonna produce more attention on your sleep, and that's what you're trying to not do. You're trying to give it less attention. Insomnia just feeds on it. It feeds on attention and focus and effort and all of that. A sleep log tends to produce some of that. So if someone is like, I've just met them and they're really not taking good care of themselves, they're drinking sodas, they're eating bad food, and they're not exercising, more of like a sleep hygiene kind of scenario, I think a sleep log is great. It's kind of like a behavior log, right? It's like, okay, I'm gonna do my half-hour walk and do this. I'm gonna, write down my calories. Okay, that can all help with your sleep if you're really doing poorly in those areas. And I think a sleep log is good for that. Or I'm staying up really late and I'm watching movies until dawn and I'm this and that, but I'm falling asleep at work and all these kinds of things. Yeah, I think a sleep diary is very helpful. Someone like Mr. Peace, no, you're not that. You're not the person I just described. You are, you know a lot about sleep, and I don't think a log is going to really give you any helpful information.
I'll share my general like pros and cons with having a sleep log, and I think the prong, mixing them up there, prawns. The positives of having a sleep log, I think, is accountability. Like if you say like I'm gonna try to get up this time every morning, you make yourself kind of write that down every morning, then it can keep you accountable. The same thing like I'm really not gonna try to. I don't want to sleep during the day. Keep a log of that. That can help you keep you accountable. That's one positive with it. The other positive with having a sleep diary, I think, is if you kind of write down how you slept and then how you felt during the day, you can often find that you can actually have a good day even after you didn't sleep that much. And that can be really helpful to know, because that can really lead you in the direction of like, I don't worry about sleeping little because I can still have a great day. Those, I think, are the two big positives with having a sleep diary. And we already talked about the negative of sleep diary is that it brings attention to it. And I want to just add that if you go online, it's like sleep diary, download sleep diary. Most of them are absolutely terrible because they will tell you to like log down what time you turn off the lights, what time you brush your teeth, what time you went to bed, what time you fell asleep, what time. That's crazy. I think if someone wants to use a sleep diary, my take on it, I think the good things to do is like okay, what time did I get up? Did I reach my goal of staying up till about this time? What was my sleep experience like? And what was my day like? I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
It's a subjective one, you know, it's like,
yeah,
it's subjective. And, you know, even like, you know, someone keeping track of like what time they get up in the morning, just make a habit of, right as you climb into bed or before that, flip the alarm switch on your clock to your morning time. And there you go. You just, that's it. That's all you got to do, right? Just,
that's right.
If you have an alarm clock that works, if you don't, go get one that works or use your phone or whatever, but just set your alarm. It's like, I'm a proponent of an alarm because it just takes all of the guesswork out of things. You hear it in the morning and you don't have to see it for it to wake you up. Sound is omnidirectional, right? It goes every which way. You don't have to look at it. You hear it, you go, well, time to get up.
That's right.
And then the last thing you want to think about when you get up is how you slept. People ask me all the time, how much sleep do you get? I don't know. What time do you go to bed? I don't know. How many times do you get up at night? I don't know. I don't think about any of it. I would be really, really poor to try to like accurately describe how my nights are. I just try to get up at roughly the same time within about a 1 hour window. And it happens kind of naturally anyways, but I set an alarm and I just get up at the same time, and everything else kind of falls into place when you start doing that. But you have to really like get to the next level of reminding yourself it doesn't matter how you slept. Your day doesn't matter what happened during the night. So, you know, sleep's kind of boring. You're just sort of lying there. So who cares what happened? You know, it's like, you know, I want to hear about someone's day. What'd you do today? Like, oh,
right.
You know, oh, you're doing this, doing that. That's great. I don't care how you know, I'm not saying if someone came to me for help, I would care how they slept. You know, I want to work on that. But like, if I'm talking to my wife or something, it's like, you know, I don't want to
focus on your day.
Sleep.
Focus on your day, and like, good things happen to your sleep.
Yeah, like good morning instead of how'd you sleep? You know, good morning. So.
Very well. So I think perfect. I wanted to say thanks so much for Cora and Luke, Mr. Peace, Lewis.
Thank you very much
for chiming in here. And you know, for those of you who like what you hear and think this sounds pretty reasonable, then definitely check out the sleepcoachschool.com. We are about to launch our sleep coaching master program, and we already have, for those of you who want to become a sleep coach, we already have that up and running. So look forward to having you back again.
Check it out.
Here, let's see. One more question here from sorry, that was the old one. I don't know. I got confused. All right. Thanks so much, Mike, and everyone out there.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.